Yeah, it's a forgery, right. Okay. Is the Sistine Chapel a forgery? Is other things that aren't forgeries? No. So why, I mean, where's that coming from exactly? I'll tell you this right now. You know how you know it's not a forgery? You look at the sketch and you see pain, you see inspiration, you hold it in your hand, you smell it, and you know it's not a forgery. And if it is, then, I just got rich off of a forgery, which isn't so bad.
800 years ago, the Jewish people mourned the death of Rabbi Moses Maimonides, the illustrious Rambam. It was Maimonides who cut the precious diamond known as the 13 roots of the Jewish creed. During this octocentennial year, a group of enterprising university students turned to a mysterious etching from the Cairo Geniza to create a mind-bending challenge of faith for the 21st century. The name of the game, Credo 13.
Welcome to Credo 13. I'm Michael Kegel. The eighth root belief of the Maimonidean Creed is that the Torah in our hands is the Torah. There is no other Torah. This is it.
We believe
that this entire Torah which is found in our hands,
the entire Torah,
from the beginning,
the Torah that we possess,
until the end,
was given by God to...
The Torah that we have now is the Torah that was given to
Moses.
To Moses.
The written Torah,
which was given through Moses, is all of divine origin.
The Torah that we find now in our hands,
the entire Torah,
is the statement of God.
The entire Torah in our hands.
There's two parts to this principle.
Number one, that God gave the Torah to Moses.
The communication we call Torah is the communication of the divine.
The giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai is the supreme moment in human history.
Second concern is that this truth was not abrogated or changed.
The Torah that we possess is that same Torah that was given to Moses.
It means that revelation was given, and that what we have does not involve any kind of forgery or any kind of manipulation.
And the first half is about revelation. Yes, God revealed himself and gave the Torah to Moses.
Moshe basically transcribed the word of God. It was Moshe said what God said.
Not that Moshe Rabbeinu wrote it, but it was passed on, it was given to Moshe.
And since his prophecy was absolutely clear, it's clearly the word of God.
But the second half is about transmission.
Maimonides believed that there was never any broken telephone.
You know, it's one thing to believe that God gave Moses the Torah. It's something else to believe that the Torah that we possess is that same one, and that it did not become corrupted in that process of transmission.
The same Torah we take out from the Aron Kodesh today, Atobi Adenu, which is in our hands today, that was the same exact Torah that was given Moshe Rabbeinu.
The Torah that we possess 3,300 years since the moment of revelation is the same Torah.
For those Jews who suggest otherwise, declaration of protest from Maimonides. This is one of the beliefs that we believe in.
Jokingly, I would say that if I was going to become a heretic, this is where I would become a heretic. Because here, we're not dealing with a self-evident truth. We're dealing with a historical fact that the Torah that we possess 3,300 years since the moment of revelation is the same Torah.
When you have movements within Judaism that deny the relevance of the Torah, at least it's that the antiquity of Torah is that it's an antique, but it's not, that was not really the one that was relating to us. So the Rambam says, Shekol HaTorah HaMetzuya Atabi, the same Torah we take out from the Aron Kodesh today.
Today, we have the the same Torah that existed 3,000 years ago.
Okay, this is a very interesting fundamental principle. And to be brutally honest about it, it is presented to us in very simple form. It is far from simple.
Why that is so we'll see in a few minutes, but the complexity can be anticipated by a good metaphor, which is what we get in our Credo drama number 8, where Billy repeatedly attempts to put her faith structure in communication with Joe's. But her communications are initially unclear, and so Joe remains unreceptive.
I canceled my email account.
Why would you do that?
Just wasn't worth it.
You can get a free account.
That's not it.
Viruses?
Not really.
So why'd you cancel?
It was driving me crazy.
It's so convenient.
No, I just don't trust it.
You don't trust email?
Yeah, at least on the phone you can hear the person's voice.
You can see the person's email address.
That doesn't mean they wrote it.
Well, can you just tell by their style?
You could fake that.
So, how do you communicate?
In person, mostly.
What if you can't be there in person?
So I have this idea.
Oh no. What kind of idea?
Homing pigeons.
Homing pigeons?
Yeah, you can always trust a homing pigeon.
Billy, it's a pigeon.
Right. Why would it lie?
Welcome back to Broken Jewish Telephone, the reality show in which we investigate why 4 quirky college girls share the same half hour as a bunch of rabbis.
I hate TV movies.
Oh, I know.
They're terrible.
No, it's the commercials.
I hate commercials.
Commercials are really distracting.
I don't mind the commercials.
Some commercials show talent.
No, I hate when the movie breaks for commercial and then
they come back.
and everything's different.
I know.
I hate that.
Someone fires a gun.
And then they cut to commercial.
And when you get back,
he hasn't even fired the gun yet.
And someone kicks him before he gets a chance.
So, were there just too many commercials between Sinai and us? Well, at least you'll agree with me that God did speak at Sinai.
So fine. I agree with you. God spoke at Sinai, and it's perfect revelation, and Moshe's revelation was perfect. It was clear, unique revelation. God, okay, I'm living 3,000 years after Sinai. Who says what I got today is what they got? And if it's not what they got, then who says it has any validity?
So really, this belief is a conviction in the caution and the precision of those human beings who transmitted the Torah to us.
To the popular mind, the definition of this ikar is that the text of the Torah that we have in our hands, every single letter of it, is the exact text that was given to Moses at Mount Sinai.
The Torah that we have now is the exact same Torah that Moses gave us. The Torah that we have now has always been unchallenged, that was Moses' Torah.
And that's what we're taught when we're children. I don't think that definition can stand up to scrutiny.
Because it seems to imply that there's no differences in Torah texts, and we certainly do have differences in Torah texts.
There are variant readings. There are Yemenite variant readings. There are variant readings even in the Masoretic text, which is the text that we use. We call it the Masoretic text, whereas in reality, the Bali Masorah, who are the people that actually wrote down our version of the Torah, there were many of them. And that our text is just one among many, and that text itself was based upon comparing, contrasting various other texts.
That I certainly could not deny that that some variations exist.
Plus, of course, we all know, as Rabbi Akiva Eiger notes in Shas, that the Talmud is dealing very often with textual variants of the Chumash and of Navi that are slightly different than what we have and what we read in our synagogues.
It's hard for me to believe that Maimonides would declare a view heretical that a sage in the Talmud is believed to have stated.
So there's an issue on this, but you have to understand first what Maimonides was trying to deal with. He was dealing with the issue of broken telephone. Maybe it was perfect at Sinai, but who says I have it today?
In fact, he goes further. In a letter to Yemen, he doesn't just say that you must believe this. and all other versions are false or anything like that. He says that there's no differences in Torah text anywhere. Well, everyone knows there's differences in Torah text. They have all the responds that talk about this. What do you do? Talmud speaks about it. But he's writing to these Jews in Yemen. He's trying to make them strong in their faith against the Muslims. He's willing to engage in a bit of a white lie.
In certain ways, you have to remember, Rambam in certain ways was also combating viewpoints around him. And the dominant viewpoint was Islam, which said that the Jews corrupted the stories of history. That the Torah said it was Isaac who was who was almost sacrificed to God. Well, the Muslims say it was Ishmael, and so forth.
We know at this time, when Maimonides lived, that the Jews are being accused by Muslims of falsifying the text of the Torah. It's called tahrif.
Meaning, if I would set up as the enemy here the Muslims, who said, the Jews edited, they didn't use the word edited, they forged, they made changes. So the insistence on Rambam's side is that there was no monkey business.
The bottom line is that to Maimonides, he wants to avoid any aspect of broken telephone because he's concerned about broken telephone.
Are you opening a big can of worms here? Because once you begin to say stuff like this, where do you end?
Once there's a broken telephone, then you may be justifying what the Muslims are saying. Well, once you made a mistake here, you can make a mistake there.
And I think that's one of the reasons why perhaps the popular formulation of this ikar tends to be as extreme as it is, because we're afraid that once we let a few breaks in our line here, that our entire defense will collapse.
There's an attempt within Judaism to somehow protect the tradition.
Extreme protective measures for an extremely fragile communication. Or maybe just paranoia, like Billy's email paranoia?
So, you don't use email at all?
I can't. What about only from your close friends?
But how do I know?
What if I called you and told you I was sending you an email?
You mean if you verified each time you were sending me an email?
Right, so you know.
I'm still not. The internet is a dangerous world. Did you guys hear about this kid?
Which kid?
This internet kid?
Yeah.
That was crazy.
I know.
In person?
Okay, in person.
You'll come over and read me every email before you send it?
Yes, so you won't have any doubts.
And then I can make a copy?
You can make a couple copies.
I'll make several copies.
And then you'll know.
That works for me.
So let's say we're paranoid, or at least afraid. A fear of impiety makes us believe that the Torah in our hands is the same Torah that Moses got from God. But we still need to translate this fear into something that makes sense. So what are the options?
I think that you have two options here. Well, actually three. Option number one is to say that at that moment in history, when the Bali Masorah, or at least one of them, became the accepted norm of Torah text, that was God re-entering history and leading them to create the self-same text which he had given thousands of years before at Sinai. It was a miraculous re-entry of God into history, and therefore we do have the same text that was given at Sinai.
With all the human fallibility that there is, and even the best scribe, there'll be minor variations, and sometimes there'll be major blunders. Even the most honest posek can get something wrong. I think it is very important to believe that the Rabbanu Shalom would not permit a serious error to creep in.
So the Chazon Ish says that halachic transmission is divinely directed. There's a hand of God in halachic transmission. That's one viewpoint. There's another viewpoint that says the rabbis take it so seriously that the transmission is going to be taken seriously, and therefore there's minimal aberrations, or let's say reading Maimonides clearly no aberrations.
So if somebody would say, well, they weren't dishonest, the Muslims are wrong, they're honest people, but they're so incompetent they just left out paragraphs and they didn't see very well, so they changed a lot of things. That certainly would be undermining what the Rambam is saying.
As early manuscripts are discovered, such as Dead Sea Scrolls, which contained, among other things, manuscripts of early books of the Torah, we do find a tremendous precision in this process of transmission.
Scribes have tremendous rules to maintain the integrity of the written Torah. So they actually find that disagreements in the written Torah are minuscule.
Even though there are differences.
Even though there are disagreements in manuscripts, it's not as widespread as you would expect.
The differences are very minor. The precision with which the text was preserved is remarkable.
What's fascinating is that there's a Rashi in Parshas Teruma. The Rashi says like this: "Ve'eis kol asher tzava oischa es bnei Yisrael." All that I command to you, to the children of Israel. So Rashi comes on that word, "Ve'eis vav zu yisera." This vav is yisera. It's extra vav on the "Ve'eis kol asher tzava." It's an extra vav. The kamayu nimtza. We find such cases in the Torah. Tell me, pray tell. This is an unbelievable thing. I see this. I'm stirred to some kind of emotional level because here, there is no vav. Rashi said there is no extra vav. There's so many va in the Torah. Rashi, in his prophetic level, which I believe he had, was able to detect this is an extra vav. My Sefer Torah, though there are thousands of vavs in the Torah, why is Rashi picking on this vav? This vav is extra. So Sifsei Chacham says, ask the question, there's a discrepancy, there is no vav. And Rashi says there is a vav. He says, in the Sefer Torah of Rashi, it was unfortunately written with a vav. So Rashi, with his wisdom, knew something's wrong with the Sefer Torah. Something's wrong. Extra vav. It's amazing. Not seeing any other Sefer Torah. Something's wrong with the Sefer Torah. Something wrong here. It's unbelievable. It's like, how master, a master of every word in the Torah? You think of it. I mean, people read novels and they can't do this. How the Alpha have those Kaddish L'chol. Think of one extra word, like one extra letter, a letter. Take a look at Parshas Teruma. It's just a fascinating Rashi. It just grabs you. I mean, how Rashi is able to detect, either from the knowledge or from prophetic wisdom or from some level that he's able to know this. Like, kudos to Rashi, which I tell you.
In a unique moment in Credo history, Billy will pull a Credo Maximus with the call,
Believe.
Watch and listen for it.
I actually like TV movies.
No, you don't.
I do. I really like them.
Why?
I like the bad music.
Yeah, the bad music's good. I like the terrible acting. That's true. And I like the pointless scripts. They have an allure.
And I like the way they come back from commercial.
But they change the story. What?
They come back from commercial to a different scenario than you left.
They blatantly change things.
They're just telling you got it wrong.
That I what?
That I got it
Yes,
wrong?
you saw wrong.
I didn't see wrong. I didn't see wrong.
They changed the scenario.
They update the scenario.
They replace objects. They rearrange positions.
They invert dialogue.
They're just telling you how it really is.
But they change the whole thing. I say turn it off.
Or maybe...
Yes, for the sake of the movie. Believe. Believe? Believe. For the sake of the movie. You just wanted to say that again?
For the sake of the movie. Another way to make sense of our belief in the authenticity of the Torah. For the sake of the movie.
We can say that God, realizing that we are fallible men and have no other options, He granted ex post facto that this is now the functional divine text.
One of the principles of the revelation, one of the cardinal principles of the revelation is that which will be the result of the 50th telephone, given that it may not be what is actually said, okay? That which is to be treated as if it was from the originating telephone call.
It becomes as if it was the divine text given at sign. I think that's the second possibility.
Let's kind of do an analogy between what we were talking about God at the beginning of, just as I think one knows nothing about God except what the Torah teaches. So I don't think that we know anything about the construction of the biblical text, especially the text of the Pentateuch, the 5 books of Moses, except what the tradition has transmitted to us. I don't think we can separate the text from its transmission.
There was at least an ex post facto ratification of the Masoretic text.
When we say that the Torah that we have now is the Torah that was given to Moses, it's because that was the judgment of Ezra and his generation.
And then you're going to have to posit some kind of divine re-entry into history.
It's quite clearly recognized that the text of the Torah, there wasn't pretty much full agreement among the Jewish people anyway until the time of Ezra. That Ezra restores the Torah. Now, this doesn't mean that Ezra wrote the Torah, but Ezra, it would seem from the evidence, clearly had to reassemble the Torah.
And again, either that the Baal Masorah rediscovered the Sinaitic text, or that God now gives it his imprimatur.
Which I don't think in any way compromises our belief that the Torah is Min HaShamayim. According to the rabbis, Ezra's work was clearly a second revelation, which does not mean that Ezra wrote a new Torah or added even anything to the Torah, but that Ezra clearly had to establish what a correct text was when there had been a great deal, obviously, of discrepancy before that time.
If you basically turn around and say, yeah, sure, accept Sinai happens, but who said in the 2,000 years that people didn't misunderstand Torah and play with it and manipulate it, and who says the Torah today, then that has no validity today. Okay? So inherent in Torah must be some idea that the Torah we have today was maintained as best as possible, and there's some evidence for that in terms of even that the disagreements are minuscule, and that we are to relate to the Torah today, okay, as if it was the Torah of Sinai.
So the first thing we have to say to ourselves is, let's first agree on something. This is the exact same Torah that Moshe passed down Mount Sinai. Now that's it.
Keep building the faith with Credo 13. Join us next week for the next root belief of the Maimonidean Creed. The Torah is immutable. Stay tuned for the Men in Black Hats on Messages up next.
They sent me out to Cambridge, and I saw it. I saw the etching. I said, and the first feeling was, immediately, was, am I allowed to bring this coffee in here? Because, what if it spills? What if I just, and then I said to myself, so what if it spills? Did you see how dirty it was? Did you see how dirty it already was?